All right. Oh, it's sunny in the East Coast today. Definitely not sunny here. That's for sure. It is rainy and gross. I'm actually going to be out in Halifax speaking in June. So I'm looking forward to that. I'll be at Honey and Ginger speaking. So that'll be good. And if anybody has mics on, I'm just gonna get them to turn their mics off. I believe I'd chosen that, but I'm not sure. So if you do have your mic on, just turn your mic off for me. Oops, don't mean to jump ahead there. Oops, jumping ahead too fast. Okay, I'm gonna get started. So welcome to Harmonizing Your Menstrual Cycle. Thank you so much for taking time to be with me tonight. I completely appreciate it. I know we all have really busy lives. So I'm going to be going through this talk today, and then I'll answer questions in the end. So if you have questions, just hold on to them. I will be answering any questions at the end that I possibly can answer. We have somebody else coming in. There we go. Let me meet the next person coming in. So yeah, just hold your questions to the end and I will answer them then. So first off, if you don't know who I am, my name is Erin Ashley and I'm the founder and CEO of Erin Wellness Support Supplements. So I have a supplement brand. I'm a holistic nutritionist, a registered holistic nutritional counselor. I have a bunch of other designations there, as you can see. I have a podcast called The Friends You Keep, available on Apple, and I welcome you to listen and subscribe. 2023, I won the Canadian Total Mom Pitch. I also am a top 100 health and wellness influencer. I have a #1 book on Amazon called Bulimia to Balance. I have 4 cookbooks with my daughter, and I had a wellness radio show out here for about 3 or 4 years in Vancouver. So a little context as to why I started my supplement brand, and also just my passion for health and wellness and for making other people or trying to educate others, women especially. About 10 years ago, I had a personal health crisis. I was overtired, overworked, overstressed. I had no libido. My cycles were debilitating. I'd be on the couch with Tylenol 3s. My metabolism had pretty well stopped responding, and I was entering early perimenopause. And ironically enough, I was a holistic nutritionalist. I'd worked in the supplement industry for 20 years at that time. And I really kind of had my aha moment as to how I wanted to live out my life. I had my young daughter and I wanted to lead by a better example for her and also just for myself in general. So I really began looking at what true holistic health meant to me. And, I kind of grew up, I was an overweight child as I grew up, and my parents put me in Weight Watchers at 13. So my barometer of health and wellness was always the size of my pants. It wasn't necessarily what true holistic health was. So when I began to peel back the layers, I began to look, what does that really mean to me? And in that, I began to look at kind of this kind of context, and what holistic health meant to me at the time was just necessarily my body. And I knew that wasn't going to be sustainable. I really wanted to look at deeper beliefs in that, be it my emotions, looking at cognitive behavioral therapy, looking at nutrition, looking at my relationship with movement instead of as a punishment, as something to celebrate my body. I looked at my passions, what I really wanted to be and who I wanted to be in the world, and how I needed to take care of this one glorious body that I have. And in that, I came up with 5 pillars that I use in my coaching practice. I used in my coaching practice, and they actually are the 5 pillars of my supplement brand now. And they are the thoughts you think, the friends you keep, daily movement, nutrition, and lastly, supplementation. I truly believe, and I know this for a fact, you can take all the stress support and ashwagandha in the world, but if you're in a negative fear-based state of mind, you're still going to be stressed. And we know that stress is one of the leading cause to many, many, many ailments. So, and one of them is estrogen dominance. So we're going to talk a little bit about that later when that relates to PMS. So that is really kind of how these 5 pillars came to be. And you're going to try to see that throughout this talk tonight, I try to really include these 5 pillars because it's really, truly what I believe. If we can kind of look at everything as a whole and how we're operating in the world within these 5 pillars, we can really work towards sustainable health and wellness. So what is harmonizing our cycle? Or you could look at it as a way of calling cycle syncing. So cycle syncing refers to the practice of adapting your health and lifestyle habits to fit the 4 phases of your menstrual cycle. And it's really phenomenal to see how many women don't understand that we have 4 different phases of our cycle. And our hormones web and change, web and up and down throughout that whole entire ebb and flow. Sorry, that's the word I'm looking for. Throughout that whole entire time. And we will feel different in different points of our menstrual cycle. So for example, one way of cycle syncing is really altering our workout, our routine, possibly our nutrition, and even our sex life to match how our hormonal change is going on in that particular point in time throughout the month. So today we're going to be looking at the 24-hour clock versus the 28-day clock. We're going to look at what is a menstrual cycle, timing of a healthy cycle, how to support each phase with nutrition, fitness, relationships, and work. Hold on, let me let one person in here. So that's going to be looking at the follicular phase, the ovulation phase, the luteal phase, and the menstrual phase. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the supplements we have at Erin Wellness. I'm going to talk about 3 of them tonight at the very end. So traditionally, we're really based on a 24-hour clock, and Western society is based on a male hormonal cycle, shockingly. So in the morning, testosterone peaks, a guy is up and at 'em. I think we all know what that means. Usually guys wake up. Afternoon, the testosterone balances out, right? They have a nice balance and focus, and they're open to teamwork. And that's when, at work, they're really thriving in that 1-2 o'clock afternoon phase. Evening, testosterone starts dropping, calmer emotions, they get tired and they go to bed. Now, most of us end up operating off this 24-hour cycle, but we do not operate off a 24-hour cycle. If you're a person who menstruates, then you don't operate off a 24-hour cycle. You actually operate off a 28-day cycle. And we need to look at it in a different context. So when we look at I look at it as 4 seasons, and that's a nice way of looking at it. So really, menstruation is our winter phase, right? And that's about 5 to 7 days. And that's our rest phase. When you think of winter time, we kind of hunker in. Then we look at spring as our follicular phase. That's right after our period, and that's 7 to 10 days. And that's springtime. That's when your follicles are developing. That's when your estrogen is beginning to rise again. Then we have summertime, and that's your ovulatory phase. That's when estrogen and testosterone's at its peak. And then we have autumn, which is our luteal, and that's when we start going down into our menstrual phase. So we're going to go through each of these phases, what they look like for all the different, be it sex, be it relationship, be it workouts, and be it nutrition as well. So what is a menstrual cycle? For those of you who don't know, let me let somebody else in here. A menstrual cycle is the process of ovulation and menstruation in women or those who menstruate, and it occurs from puberty until menopause. And for those of you who don't know, I actually do a talk on perimenopause as well, but menopause is actually known as a second puberty for females. So women who are not pregnant, who are experiencing cycle irregularities with birth control, this is really what we're looking at when we're talking about a menstrual cycle. And it contains those 4 phases I just mentioned: follicular, ovulation, luteal, and menstruation. And during our cycle, we got another person coming in, and during our cycle, our hormone levels are in flux, right? Which is why we feel different at different points of the time of the month. And if you look at this chart here, you can see this. The different, like, follicle stimulating hormone, we've got estrogen rising, we've got progesterone rising, all these different times during the follicular, ovulation, and luteal phase. So menstrual cycles. Now, one of the things I think we really need to look at is start viewing our menstrual cycle in a different light. Most people just view them as a monthly bleed. And to be honest, I did a Instagram post on it, looking at all the names that menstrual cycles are called, which is quite horrific. Some of them, like Shark Week, or like some of them are really bad. And so we're really looked upon as like a curse, like it's a negative thing, and it's a burden that we have to carry, but it's really, really not. We really need to look at our menstrual cycle as our monthly report card. Now, there are some women with endometriosis or possibly PCOS or different issues that maybe your menstrual cycle, of course, wouldn't be an opportunity for you to look at as something that you can as something you kind of want to celebrate or look forward to see how kind of your monthly health report card is coming through. But it really comes from the lack of education that we're given, right? And so it can be really empowering. It can be a superpower if we really understand it. I was driving in the car with my daughter and all her girlfriends, and I was talking to them about using your menstrual cycle as a monthly report card. So if you have a really heavy, really tough period, cramping, kind of what I was going through years ago, that's my opportunity to take a step back and look at what's going on the month before. How stressed was I? Did I have proper bowel movements? Was I exercising? Because proper bowel movements and exercising, drinking water, all of these different ways supporting my liver are ways in which my body can excrete excess estrogen. And that's usually tend to be one of the leading causes for PMS. So using this as a monthly report card, using this as a gift in a way to see how things are going in our body, I think is a great way to teach younger girls to look at, and then also for yourself as well. So the timing of a healthy cycle. So a healthy cycle is from 21 to 35 days long. Now that ends up changing as you start going through perimenopause as well. And 28 days tends to be the average. And you can web and wean a little bit between those. So it's one of the three phases, as we mentioned. We got the follicular, that's 7 to 21 days. Ovulation is released on one day. We're fertile 5 days. So we're really not fertile that much. And the luteal phase lasts between 10 to 16, and bleeding lasts between 3 and 7. So ovulation, when that egg gets released, is between day 10 and day 23. Now, small fluctuations between the cycle from month to month are a delayed sign of ovulation, and they can be experienced in a healthy cycle. So if you're kind of like later one month and a little earlier, that's okay, right? So now we're going to go into each phase of our cycle. So first, we're going to start with the follicular. So this is after menstruation. So the follicular phase, as I mentioned before, is kind of like springtime. This is when your menstrual cycle ends, your estrogen starts rising, your pituitary glands produces follicle-stimulating hormone. That FSH stimulates follicles to make estrogen, right? So the follicles begin to develop in hopes of ovulation, in hopes to get pregnant. And so the follicles take about 100 days to develop. And the follicle is a sac that contains an egg, which is called an ovulate. So estrogen stimulates the uterine lining to grow and thicken to get ready for pregnancy. So this is kind of the picture here when you look at your uterus. You got the endometriotum, I can say that, begins to develop, and you got the egg there and the follicle as well. You have the ovulate there. So during the time after your period, it's a great time for creativity, brainstorming, starting new projects, tackling mental tasks, problem solving. If you want to get out and seek new clients, research new ideas, make plans, just think of springtime. When springtime comes, all of a sudden we want to go out, we want to do things, it's nice outside, kind of that same idea. That's why we look at this in seasons. So some of the foods we want to look at supporting our body with during the follicular time, we want to think spring again, so light and fresh. So really important incorporating some foods that will metabolize estrogen, because as I said, your estrogen is beginning to rise. So we want to make sure we can support our body to metabolize that estrogen to make sure we're not estrogen excess. We don't have too much estrogen in our body. So phytoestrogen foods, flaxseed, pumpkin seeds, soybeans, hummus, berries, fiber, making sure you're getting veggies, whole grains, beans, lentils, all these great sources of fiber, antioxidants such as berries and broccoli, really looking at cruciferous vegetables. Now, cruciferous vegetables are something that I believe we have the whole entire time we cycle. Cruciferous vegetables such as Brussels sprouts, broccoli, kale, they bind to estrogen and help our body detox from excess estrogen in our system. So if you can have some broccoli every day, if you can have some kale or some sort of cruciferous vegetables, it will definitely support your body. And fermented foods as well. We really need to make sure we're taking care of our gut health. Our gut is known as our second brain, really supporting our gut health during our whole entire cycle. So whether it's raw and fermented vegetables, yogurt, kifu, tempeh, I've got sauerkraut in the fridge. I could have some of that every now and then. We also have hormonal reclaim, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later, that has cruciferous vegetables in it. That is our estrogen kind of hormonal support product that we have as well. In the sense of exercise during this time. So your estrogen's beginning to rise, but your hormones can still be quite low. So light cardio, you can try new exercises during this opportunity. Building muscle and recovery is increased during this time. So you might want to lift a little heavier if you're lifting weights. It also helps with muscle strength as well during this time, right? So it's a great time for you to be lifting heavy weights and really creating some of that lean muscle tissue. In the sense of sexy time, you begin to actually increase your sex drive a little bit. You might kind of feel kind of rising because you got estrogen, testosterone's beginning to rise as well at that point. You're maybe more energized and confident, more flirty. Think of spring again. You're more interested in sex. Maybe you're going to initiate sex a little bit more and take more charge in the bedroom. So follicular really is that springtime. So, and I think when we think back, if you can think back through your menstrual cycle, you'll really start to resonate with how we're using the seasons to describe these different seasons, these different times of the month for you. So next we have ovulation, and ovulation is really the main event of your menstrual cycle. And this is how we make progesterone. Progesterone protects us from the highs and lows of estrogen. So that is summertime. So let's just think of summer, how we feel in summer. We feel amazing. We feel awesome. Maybe your hair looks better. Your skin looks fantastic. You got that nice glow on. So estrogen and testosterone rise to peak levels at this time. Now, One follicle will swell and it will be triggered by luteinizing hormone to rupture and release an egg, which is ovulation. So as I said, you're fertile for 5 days before and 1 day after ovulation. Now the egg is swept up the fallopian tube post-ovulation and reabsorbed by the ovaries. Now, it's an all or nothing event. So either you're going to get pregnant or you're going to have your period. It's really one or the other. And knowing when you're ovulating is a really key part of hormonal health. It's also key if you're somebody looking to get pregnant, looking at kind of tracking your fertility. So one thing you can check, you can use a thermometer to check as well if you want. You can use some of the cycle tracking apps if you wanted to. Another really clear indication is your cervical mucus. So your discharge tends to be more slippery, more clear, wetter around this time. So that's something that ends up happening. You have a small rise in body temperature. So using a thermometer is a way of tracking when you're actually in ovulation. So when you're in ovulation, work and creativity, you can have those important conversations, go on job interviews. If you're a person who likes to write, this is a great time to write. Your creativity is at an all-time high. If you're somebody, even if you're an introvert, maybe this would be a time you'd go to a networking event. You feel a lot more confident. It's just think summer, you're feeling really great right now, right? You can negotiate neat deals. I find during my ovulation, so right now, TMI, but I'm in my menstrual cycle, not the best time for me to give a talk, but my best time to give talks are usually right in my ovulatory and right in my follicular. I don't muss on words. I'm very clear. I feel just on my game when I'm speaking in my ovulatory phase. And it's a great time to socialize as well. When we're looking at ovulation phase, the foods we want to really think of supporting ourselves with is balance at this time. This is the theme we're looking at. So with our estrogen at all-time high, we want to eat food, again, that supports our liver. We really want to look at how we're supporting our liver. So that would be anti-inflammatory foods. So our appetite can decrease as well during this time. So we want to focus on magnesium-rich foods to prevent a drop from ovulation as well. So fiber, again, really taking care of that gut health, veggies, whole grain, beans, lentils, nuts, seeds. Again, looking at cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower. You could look at reclaim as well, as I'll talk about in a bit. Zinc, so turkey, chicken, eggs, pork, avocado, all these great sources of zinc. I really always try to look at foods to really support our body. And then magnesium as well. So hemp seeds, flax seeds, tofu, all these wonderful different sources of magnesium are things we should really be looking at, making sure we have in our diet during our ovulation time. So for fitness, for ovulation, our energy, we're at our high time. Think of summer. This is the time maybe you want to go do a HIIT workout, spin classes, you want to run, maybe a really great lift. Maybe I really believe women should be lifting and doing weights at least 3 times a week. So maybe going and really getting a good lift in, getting some good yoga classes in. And the risk of tendon injury is higher at this time, so make sure you stretch and you warm up as well. But this is a really great time. We have high levels of energy during this time because we're really at our peak. And being at our peak also increases our sexual desire as well. So we might be masturbating more, fantasize more, and consume more erotica at this point. There's also more vaginal discharge, which can heighten your sensation and keep sex on your mind, which also can turn you on. So usually around this time, if your partner is into having sex, then this would be a really happy time for them as well. So next we're going to go into the luteal phase. So now we're going to move into fall now, right? So now we've done summer. Now we're thinking September, October. This is luteal phase. So this is 10 to 16 days between ovulation and your menstrual cycle, your bleed starting. Now this is when progesterone begins to rise. So when that follicle does not have it, does not get pregnant, does not get, you don't get pregnant, that it empties out, that empty follicle becomes a corpus luteum, and that becomes a progesterone secreting gland. So that produces your progesterone. Now, progesterone is really key because it helps with counterbalancing estrogen, right? It helps with sleep, it helps boost thyroid, metabolism, boosts your body temperature, reduces inflammation. It also helps calm our nervous system, and it converts to I can't say this word, allopregnanolone. So allopregnanolone exerts a neuroprotective antidepressant effect, right? So it really, people who don't have high levels of that experience depression, anxiety disorders. So we really need to look at how our body, why it's so important for our body to menstruate, why it's so important for our body to ovulate as well, because all these different things are at play during this time. So during our luteal phase, this is a great time to handle administration tasks. If you want to sit at home, do work, Excel spreadsheets, organize your desk and your paperwork, really sit down. We Excel, like as I said, charts. I know I'm really great at Excel spreadsheets during that time, reviewing documents and contracts, file expense reports, as much fun as that sounds, order supplies, wrap up projects. It's fall. So really think about fall. You begin to kind of hunker in. And this is the time for craving. So a lot of people start craving things around this time. So our estrogen, progesterone both surge right after ovulation, and now they're beginning to wane. They're beginning to go down. So we want to eat foods that produce serotonin. Serotonin is that happy mood hormone. So leafy greens, quinoa, buckwheat, magnesium-rich foods that can fight off fatigue and low libido, like dark chocolate, spinach, pumpkin seeds, and really resist the urge to restrict carbohydrates as well. We really want to find a balance. Carbohydrates are really essential and important for our hormonal balance. So vitamin D, everybody should be taking vitamin D if we live in Canada. 1,000 IUs of vitamin D. I take 5,000 IUs of vitamin D during the winter months. I have high levels of vitamin D. And if I'm sick, if I feel sniffles coming on, I go up to 10,000 and then I go back down to 5, just because we don't have enough sunlight, especially being here in Vancouver. So other sources are salmon, mackerel, tuna, egg yolk, mushrooms. Magnesium, again, looking hemp seeds, flax seeds, tofu. So hemp seeds are great, and so are flaxseed as well. You can just sprinkle them on your food. Omega-3 fatty acids, such as salmon, cod liver. Thiamine as well is great, is oats, whole grains, bean-based pastas, and then B6 as well, getting those Bs in your turkeys, your lentils, your fish, potatoes, and watermelon, poultry. During your luteal phase, during the first half, because you're coming off your ovulation, you might have higher energy, have higher levels of progesterone, higher levels of estrogen. So you can still choose those higher activities that we spoke about that you're going to be doing in your ovulatory cycle. You know, you could do HIIT, you can do weight training. And as you begin, hormone levels begin to drop, you might want to do lighter exercises. And that's a point where you really can listen to your body. Maybe that's when you start doing some yoga, some walking, really kind of honoring that and listening to what your body needs instead of pushing yourself through a really intense workout. During luteal phase, libido also start falling too. If you start experiencing PMS symptoms, that can really impact your energy, your mood, and your body image. Maybe you begin to feel really bloated, you begin to not feel very comfortable, and you probably will need more stimulation to climax as well. And progesterone is known, it can make you a little bit more moody, a little bit more anxious, and heightened stress is not going to do wonders for your libido as well. So really take care of your stress levels. High levels of stress lead to higher levels of cortisol. Higher levels of cortisol convert to estrogen, so makes you have estrogen excess. You have too much estrogen in your body, which leads to PMS. We're going to talk about PMS in a second. So menstrual phase, now this is the grand finale. We have reached our menstrual phase. This is when luteinizing hormone, progesterone, estrogen, and testosterone all at their lowest. Everything's really come down. And now there begins to be a rise in that follicle stimulating hormone that starts in the follicular phase, right? And that actually stimulates your hormones, stimulates your ovaries to start preparing an egg again. And that really then it all starts back over again. The estrogen starts rising again. But right now, your energy is at your lowest. Your uterine lining sheds, and day one, you could have some heavy bleeding. You could be spotting beforehand, and spotting can often mean lower levels of progesterone. So it should be mostly liquid, no large clots. It can go from red to brown in color, last from 2 to 7 days, and you'll lose about 50 mils of blood around this time. So foods we want to have to support ourselves during our menstrual phase. And this is a time for us to really slow down, really support our body. I've given talks where I've, just immediately when I've come out and been like, okay, just so you know, I'm in my menstrual phase. I'm a little bit, my tongue might get a little tied. You can offer yourself a lot more compassion and understanding and kindness if you know where you are in your cycle, because then you know how hormonally, how your body's going to be responding. So your estrogen will start rising at the end of your menstrual cycle, but you can do things like drink soothing tea, have chamomile if you're experiencing cramping, avoiding fatty foods, alcohol, caffeine, and salty foods. If you are somebody who feels really bloated and moody, Reclaim is one thing you can take that helps with hormonal balance. Water Be Gone is fantastic for bloat and water retention. That's one of our support supplements we have. Lean into your cravings. If you have some cravings, honor that with your body. If you want some chocolate, have some pieces pieces of dark chocolate. Find that balance. I think anytime we start really super restricting ourselves, we end up going way over in the other direction. Making sure you're getting some iron. If you're somebody who's having a really tough period, iron something to really look at. So beans, beef. If you're not somebody who has beef, look at getting a good iron supplement as well. Molasses, lentils are some really good sources of iron. Vitamin C, so bell peppers, strawberries. It's really incredible if we think about everything we eat is giving us the nutrients we need. So we really need to be conscious of the nutrients we're giving our body. You know, that saying we are what we eat is very, very, very true. So B12, you can have salmon, mussels, yogurt, omega-3 fatty acids. Again, salmon. I think the salmon is supposed to be down there below, not in the B12. Zinc, again, I have this one there. And then higher fiber carbohydrates. So this might be time where you want to do a nice stew, or think of winter months when it's kind of cold and you're hunkering in, you want some warm, comforting foods. These are really things that you really can look at supporting your body with during your menstrual phase. So during your menstrual phase, it's a really great time to kind of evaluate the last month. You know, a lot of people don't like to go out and go and party when you're on your period. I know I usually like to kind of stay home and stay in my joggers. It's a great time to review your monthly planner. Also take a look at your last month. How has your period been for you? As I said, using it as a looking glass, it gives you a chance to say, or looking mirror kind of into the past, like, how was your period this month? Did you have severe cramps? Were you having, you know, super bad breast pain? Were you moody? Were you heavy flows? What was going on? Did you have high levels of stress this past month? Did you not have proper bowel movements? Were you not drinking your water? Were you not exercising? What was going on if you're having a really symptomatic period? And it's important that we look at these periods, because your periods do not have to be horrible and symptomatic. Your periods can simply just be a period. You might have a little bit of symptoms, but it should not be this dreaded event. And it's our opportunity then to reflect and look at, what are we doing to support our body? What do we need to start doing? We can also look at the projects we need to do, reflect on your career path if you like, reassess career goals, listen to those gut instincts, really kind of connect with yourself, take breaks, and if you need to, take a personal day. So in fitness, a lot of the time our energy levels are low. I know this is a time for me when maybe I don't go lift as heavy, but I'll go for a long walk down by the water. You can do some yoga, just really kind of connect with self. If you have energy for intense activities, don't hold back. This is a great time for you to lift as well. So maybe you want to go in and lift heavy, but just take your time doing it and have more rest in between your sets. So sexy time, it really falls into two categories. Either you're totally turned on, you're okay with it, or you don't even want to think about it. So the pros of having sex during your period, it's a reduced risk of pregnancy, you have extra lubrication in there, and potential for your orgasm actually reduces cramping, believe it or not. The cons are fatigue, pain, nausea, and the blood idea might just not work for you or your partner. So it really does just depend. So how can we apply some of these different strategies that we learn? So really start making mindful shifts about that idea of winter, spring, summer, and fall, and looking at your period in your menstrual cycle in a different context. So we're not just operating off a 24-hour day cycle, but where are you in your cycle? And using some of those cycle tracking apps are really great, because you really can kind of be like, oh, this is why I'm feeling this way. This is why I'm feeling really agitated, or why I'm crying for kitten commercials. And include some of like kind of looking at these food lists, it can be a little overwhelming. So if you include a few foods from each list, each week of your cycle, it'll get easier, whether it be the hemp seeds, whether it be, having salmon once a week, because that tends to be a common theme with the omega-3s, right? Looking at things like that, you can incorporate into your day-to-day diet. And then understand where you are in your cycle and what foods will make you feel best as well. So when we're looking at optimizing our workflow, we want to look follicular phase, we're preparing, right? Those are great times to start working on projects, start initiating things. Ovulatory opening, so you really start applying all that stuff. You're going after, you're having meetings, you're negotiating, you're going out. Summertime, right? You're going out and you're actively seeking things. Working would be your luteal phase. So that's when you're going to start maybe staying at home, doing Excel spreadsheets, doing more of that computer work. And then when you get your menstrual cycle, that would be more reflecting and resting. So you can look back at your past month, look at the goals you had, and then reassess and move forward. And for relationships, so follicular, it's a great time to take a trip. go to a show, do something new with your partner. Ovulatory, it's a great time to go for dinner with friends, go to a social event, discuss relationship goals could be a great time. Your libido is increased then, so it's a great time to go on first dates. At this time, usually ovulatory, that's when your skin looks really great, your hair looks really great, you feel really fantastic in your body. It's a great phase to also focus on communication as well, because it's easier. Tongue's not going to get as tied, I find, a lot of the time, especially for me. Luteal is a great time to do domestic projects, whether you're going to organize something in your house, evaluate your relationships, cook and stay in on date night if you like, and ask what you can do to make a relationship better. So really having some great conversations. And then for menstrual is a really good time to recharge. So really indulge in some self-care, read a good book, watch a movie, ask for a foot massage, and spend quality time with yourself. So really looking at each of these phases as different points in which you can kind of tackle different things. There we go. So the benefits of understanding cycle syncing is we can build instead of drain energy. We can really have a lot more compassion for ourselves and say, oh, I'm in my luteal phase. That's why I'm feeling this way. That's why I'm feeling a little anxious, or I'm in my ovulatory phase. That's why I want to go out all the time. I'm feeling really fantastic. And you'll begin to notice, like I notice in my I look at my skin, I'm like, God, my skin looks really good today. And I'm like, oh, I'm in my ovulatory. So it's really interesting when you start connecting the dots. You feel good in your body all month because you begin to understand what your body's going through hormonally. And then you understand how and when to support your body too. So if you've had a really kind of symptomatic cycle, a crappy cycle, you can look back and say, okay, hold on, what happened last month? It's a good time to reflect during that menstrual cycle. If you're having a tough time, what did I do last month? What didn't I pay attention to? And then the next month, start really paying attention to that. It relieves mental pressure and stress, because when you're going to be operating at your best. Follicular and ovulation, right into luteal, great time for working. And you can feel like that powerful, badass, confident babe that you are. And another great thing is also can help you reduce PMS, because you begin to understand the steps you need to take in order to support your body. So PMS, and I'm not sure how many people here deal with PMS, but it is one of the major symptoms. And it can leave a clue that our liver could be out of balance. So PMS is when you have cramps, abdominal pain, lower back pain, mood swings. And a lot of the time it comes from stress. Stress is one of the leading factors. As I mentioned, when we are stressed, our body produces more cortisol. Cortisol is the hormone that helps our body deal with stress. Now, it's great if we're in fight or flight, we're getting chased by a bear, we need that rush of adrenaline, that cortisol rushes in and we can, run away or lift a car if there's a baby under it, that type of thing. But when we're under constant stress, which most of us tend to be, that constant release of cortisol can affect our levels of estrogen in our body and make us in estrogen excess. So we have too much estrogen, and our liver is not able to metabolize that excess estrogen. So our estrogen is higher. And as we have progesterone protects us from the estrogen. So all of a sudden our estrogen's up here and progesterone can't help balance it. So we can get headaches, acne, something else, breast pain. So really looking at ways in which we can support ourselves with gut health. That's one thing, supporting our liver, looking at the things we have in our day-to-day environment, the xenoestrogens as well. So the skincare you're using, the hand shampoos you're using, the cleaners you're using. Are you using plastics to contain your food in? What's your water bottles like? Do you have a glass jar? Really looking at that. That creates xenoestrogens. Xenoestrogens are not good estrogen. That means it's going to put you more in estrogen excess. So that's another thing that your liver's trying to process and metabolize. When you have that gap between the progesterone and estrogen, you have very symptomatic periods. So really looking at ways in which we can support our body. With our household, and I'll be honest, I like wearing perfume. I'm not going to stop wearing perfume. I love it. There's certain makeups that I love to use. So not all of my stuff is completely natural. But what I've done is it's kind of 80-20 rule. So all glassware. We don't have anything. We don't store anything in plastic in the house. We have glass bottles where we keep our water in the fridge. I also put some sea salt, Celtic sea salt, in the water as well when I put it in the fridge for electrolytes. Another topic, little side note there, but something else you can do, you can buy glass bottles from Amazon. They're really cheap for 12 and they're dishwasher friendly. We have them in the fridge all the time. So it helps you create and drink more water. using those. All of our dish detergents, all of our clothing detergents, our bounce sheets are fragrance free with nothing, no chemicals in it. So really looking at ways in which you can take steps to support your body in that way. And then if you want to have like a perfume or a makeup, then you're kind of that 80-20 rule, but looking at ways that we can lower xenoestrogens and lower stress levels in the body. So I'm going to touch a little bit on 3 support supplements that I love. I'm going to talk to you about my favorite, which is Reclaim. This is our hormonal support product. This helps with estrogen dominance. If you are somebody who's experiencing really symptomatic periods, it helps with that. Irregular periods, painful periods, moody, cravings. If you're somebody in perimenopause, or my daughter who's 15 takes this product as well. Low libido, it's immune support, and it's a 1 a day. This is one of the most, I believe, important products that women can be taking. Sorry, not now. I'm not sure what's happening here. I have a thing popping up on my screen. So calcium diglucarate is our first ingredient that we have in here. Calcium diglucarate supports your liver. So as I mentioned before, one of the things that can lead to PMS is our liver is being overworked. So calcium diglucarate supports the liver and helps your body detoxify excess estrogen. Then we have green tea extract in here. We have 2.5 grams. So green tea extract helps stabilize blood sugar. So one of the common causes as well is when our blood sugar is all over the map, that also affects cortisol levels in our body. And if you're somebody who's dealing with PCOS, green tea and blood sugar regulation is another important thing. Broccoli sulforaphane, I did mention cruciferous vegetables to you guys. So broccoli sulforaphane, we had a 4-to-1, so 400 milligrams. It's one of the highest dosage that we have. It's 400 milligrams. That's going to bind to estrogen and move estrogen out of your body. Then we have DIM. So DIM balance is good to bad estrogen in the system. Then we have resveratrol as well. So resveratrol acts as a phytoestrogen. So xenoestrogen, not good. Phytoestrogen, good, right? Phytoestrogen comes from fermented organic soy. So that's a good thing. Tofu, tempeh, all those things, as long as they're fermented and organic, those are good for you. Then we have lion's mane in here. So lion's mane is a mushroom. It's a medicinal mushroom. It helps with anxiety and depression. As I kind of talked a little bit about, you can kind of feel a little bit low when you're going into your menstrual cycle. So it really helps with that. Curcumin acts as an anti-inflammatory, so then you're not inflamed. Chaste tree helps with luteinizing hormone and progesterone. So it helps keep your cycles on a regular track. We have tons of reviews on this product. Women love this product. It helps keep them on a 28-day cycle. We have white yam in here for PMS, cramps, vaginal dryness, low libido. We have B6 to help with mood and PMS, astragalus as an adaptogen that helps with stress, and then zinc as well for skin and digestive and sex drive. It's a phenomenal product. It is a 1 a day, and that's one of the reasons I really love this product. It is my favorite child. It's made such a difference in my hormonal journey. So this one is Reclaim. And then we've got Water Be Gone. So Water Be Gone is the next one. I kind of mentioned that for a second. I'm going to talk 3 supplements tonight. So Water Be Gone is our #1 seller. We have 400 5-star reviews on this product. So if you find around that time of the month, PMS, you feel like you're retaining water, you feel bloated and puffy, which is very common. Women can gain up to 10 pounds pre-cycle. This helps with water retention, UTI support as well, salty meal solution. I use this when I fly. We have a travel version of this. I use this 1 every 2 hours on any flight I go on. It sucks all the water right out of me, so I'm not bloated and don't have swollen ankles. And also a great way to kickstart weight loss as well, if that's something you're looking for. So in here we have dandelion. So dandelion is well known as a diuretic and helps with water retention. We have magnesium citrate, which prevents cramping. We also have in here juniper berry. So it's a clinical dose of juniper berry, and that helps with UTIs. So if you're somebody who's experiencing urinary tract infections, this is a great product for that. And then we have milk thistle, and that supports the liver. Again, supporting the liver. That is our mother organ. We want to make sure we're supporting our liver. Then we have in here an ingredient called Fucus vesiculosis, which is kelpware. That helps with weight loss. It's a diuretic, digestion, and constipation support. B6 for water retention, and black cohosh as well. That relieves PMS and menopausal symptoms and hot flashes. Men can take this product too. I have a lot of guys who love this product. You can take you can take 1 to 3 a day. So depending, when I have a salty meal, I'll come home at night, I'll take 1 or 2 and go to bed. I might wake up in the morning in the middle of the night and pee, but it works really fast. You immediately start flushing water. And then the last product I'm going to talk about is So Harmonious. So this one helps support blood sugar. It's a PCOS support, a stress support, ovulation support, immune support, bowel support, and also perimenopause support. So blood sugar is another really important thing we need to look at when we're looking at hormonal balance. So some of the ingredients we have in here, we have myo-inositol, and myo-inositol, supports how the body uses insulin and also hormonal levels. So we have 4 grams of myo-inositol. We have a clinical dose. We have coconut water powder, and that has 5 electrolytes. It's going to replenish your body with sodium, magnesium, calcium, potassium, and phosphorus. Then we have flaxseed powder. I mentioned flaxseed powder quite a bit in the conversation. We're looking at meals, making sure we have that flaxseed powder that helps with hormonal balance. That's a phytoestrogen. It helps with ovulation as well and fertility. Then we have KSM 66 ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is well known as an adaptogen to support your body when it's stressed. So I mentioned when you are experiencing higher levels of estrogen in the body, your body has higher levels of stress in the body, you have higher levels of cortisol, higher levels of estrogen. So really supporting the body by giving it, we have 5.6, almost 0.6 grams of ashwagandha in there. So a really high dose of ashwagandha in there. We have magnesium citrate that helps with bowel regularity and also helps with insulin sensitivity. We have NAC in there. That's a short way to say it. NAC was really popular during COVID because it supports the immune system. So it helps improve insulin levels and insulin sensitivity. Zinc for skin and fertility. That was a common ingredient you saw across the board with food. Vitamin C. We've gotten there chromium picolinate, which also helps with insulin resistance and stabilizing blood sugar. And vitamin D. We have 1,000 IUs. So it's a powder. I mix it with almond milk at night before I go to bed. So every day I take a Reclaim at lunch and I have So Harmonious before I go to bed. It's just what I do. It tastes great. And then also too, it also helps stabilize my blood sugar as well. So these two are kind of my like winning combination. And then I take Water Be Gone whenever I need it. So we do have 13 products on the market. So we have quite a bit, but that's all I'm going to talk about tonight. If you do have questions about the other ones, I can tell you about them. But one of the things I want to bring attention to is every single product of Erin Wellness has these QR codes on it. We're the only company that has a complete program with every single product. So when you scan this, you are getting a 60-second video where I explain the whole product. You have 2 meal plans, a vegan meal plan and a non-vegan meal plan. We redo them every year. We just redid them. We have all new meal planners in Reclaim. We have tons of information in here. We talk about the 4 cycles. We talk about perimenopause. We talk about heavy periods and PMS, all in this little QR code. How to sync your lifestyle, and then also a complete breakdown. And every single product has this. I got on Dragon's Den 2 years ago with this, and Dragon's Den, if you're not from Canada, is like Shark's Tank. And I walked away with 3 offers. So it really is, I believe, one of my ways of kind of passing on those 5 pillars that my brand represents to you through these QR codes to really help support you. We also donate a portion of every single bottle sold to the Downtown Eastside Women's Shelter here in Vancouver. My goal with this brand is not only to help educate women and support them, so I hope you got something from this conversation tonight, to create products that my retailers can get behind and that women can use and love, and then also help women who are in need. So I just want to remind everybody, we have a newsletter on our website. So please subscribe to our newsletter. It will notify you when we have new products coming out. We have 3 new products launching this next month. It's also going to tell you when we have updated webinars. We have Instagram and Twitter. We have Facebook, YouTube, and then of course my personal Instagram, which I welcome you to follow us and follow along on our journey with Erin Wellness. I will also give you guys a coupon code as well for tonight. So if you'd like 10% off of Erin Wellness, it is Blood Sugar 10 is the name of the code. So Blood Sugar 10, I'll write it in the chat, is going to be the code. Yes, you can have, I'm going to be emailing everything out to everybody. Blood Sugar 10 is the code, and you get 10% off everything in the on the whole lineup on the website as well. So does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask in the chat? Any questions? No questions? Did I do that good of a job explaining it all? No questions off limits. So feel free to ask anything. I do recommend beef. Yes, I'm a big beef believer. I did recommend beef when I was talking about zinc. So yes, I definitely recommend beef, especially during when you're in your menstrual phase as well. I find, interesting enough, I crave steak when I have my period. I don't know if you find that as well, Christine, but definitely I do recommend beef. Yeah, 100%. Right, and that's the iron too. You're really looking for that, and the zinc as well. I love beef. Grass fed. Oh, no problem. Any other questions? All right, well, that was perfect. I am going to, do postmenopausal women. So they don't necessarily, some women can still experience cycle uh, symptoms. Like some women who are not menstruating anymore can still experience some of the cycle symptoms, right? So, but they don't necessarily, they don't go through because they're not ovulating anymore, but they still can experience some things that maybe they feel a little bit more anxiety at one point of the month or that type of thing. But yeah, no, they don't experience the same thing because they're not ovulating. And if you are a woman who is menstruating, or any woman, I suggest go getting your hormone panels done. I'm a big believer in that. If you are really symptomatic, if you're having really tough periods, and even if you're not, I started getting a complete blood panel done when I was 35 years old. And I've done that for the past 10 years or so. So every couple of years, I go get a full blood panel. And you can go to your doctor if you're in Canada and get it done. And that is your estrogen, progesterone, free bound testosterone, and also your testosterone and progesterone. Sorry, I think there for a second. But what that gives you, it kind of gives you a roadmap as you start to go through menopause and perimenopause, what you'd like to do in the sense of HRT or if natural supplements is the way to go, but it really gives you a roadmap. So I've been doing that for many years. My perimenopause talk is really interesting. And so if you are somebody who lives in, I'll be all across Canada this year. I'll be in Ontario, Halifax. I'm going to be in Calgary next week. I do the talk on perimenopause too. So just visit the events page at Erin Wellness. And you can see where I'll be speaking when I talk about perimenopause. Any other questions? Where can I go to get a phone? Okay, so your doctor should give it to you, in all honesty. If you go in and tell him, is there a reason why he won't? I mean, if you go in and ask him and say, I'm experiencing really hormonal issues, I want to get a blood panel done. You can go to Life Labs. I believe Life Labs will charge you $99 for it, but your doctor should. My doctor gives me a hormone panel. You can also go, if you have extended benefits, if you have a naturopath, you can do the Dutch test. The Dutch test is a dried urine test. So in order though for a doctor to work for you, if you're in menopause or perimenopause, if you're kind of in that phase, you're looking at HRT or bioidentical hormones, you will have to have blood work done too. But normally your doctor should give it to you. I mean, it doesn't, if you, I think if you go in and, I mean, doctors really have, I kind of give, they have 15 minutes for the most part to see their customers. And here in BC, up till recently, they weren't even allowed to bill for all of the office hours, which was hours upon hours that they had to do of paperwork. Now they can finally bill for that. But a lot of the times they can't just be sending everybody for tests. So if you go in and say, my hormones are really off, I feel all over the map, I really want to have a panel done. I need you to give me a panel. If he fights you on it or she fights you on it, one of the things you can say is you can ask him to write it in your notes that you have asked for a hormonal panel and he's refused you. So if anything ever showed up and something, let's say, happened, let's say they do a hormone panel, they find something's really off years down the road, then he'd be almost held liable for it. But I would really try going in and just maybe exasperating the situation a little bit, where you're like, I'm really out of balance. I really need to do this. Yeah, you can look at the Dutch test. And so if you have extended benefits, right? So the Dutch test, I just did mine recently because I'm looking at possibly doing bioidentical hormones in the probably next couple of years. I'm a big believer in supplements, but I'm also a believer in using both if you can. So in that, I did a Dutch test. So we did the Dutch test and I just did another blood work test. So now we have both that we can really look at. And my daughter's 16 years old, and I want to put her through her first, so she's turning 16. I want her to get her first blood panel done very soon, because I think about that and think how, if she ever has fertility issues, if when she's going through menopause or perimenopause, for her to have all the data, maybe every 3 years she goes and gets it done. But Life Labs, from what I know, Life Labs here, I believe it's $99, and you probably could put it through your benefits too, if you have benefits. So I know it was a long-winded answer, but I hope that helped. And hopefully we will start getting more doctors that will advocate for us. Let me see. Oh God, that's so annoying. There's no real worries. You're telling me we're talking about symptoms. That is so frustrating. I am so sorry, Anne. That is super frustrating that he won't listen and take into effect that you're asking him for something. That's so maddening. It's so maddening. Yeah, I'm sorry. And I believe it is $99 at Life Lab to get one done, but it's not even a matter of worrying to me. It's a matter of having an understanding of where my hormones are. From 35 to 50, that's when you're starting perimenopause. Understanding where your baseline is also really important, because then your doctor has something to go by, right? Like when he's beginning to look at bioidentical hormones, he can be like, when she felt her best, it was this. Okay, so now we can really understand how your body is, right? 100%. I totally hear you. And that makes me so mad that he won't do that for you. I'm so sorry. One of the things we're working on, Erin Wellness, I'm going to answer your question, Kristen, right? Okay. We're working on having a practitioner page as well on our website. And doctors you could work with on Zoom if you wanted to. There's a great naturopathic doctor out here who actually is one of 3 doctors in Canada that can actually insert pellets, hormonal pellets that actually will time release over time. So hold on. Is it recommended to take a break from birth control pills? I've been on them for many years and hear that a break is recommended. Not sure if they're necessary. Well, it depends on why you're taking them. I mean, if you're planning on getting pregnant, then I would take a break from them. And if you're taking them for hormonal balance, then usually what ends up happening is when you get off of them, you're going to kind of find it's like you just kind of put the Band-Aid on it for the whole entire time. But it depends on why you're taking them. If you're having unprotected sex and you don't want to get pregnant, then that's something to look at. I'm a fan of the copper IUD. That's what I always used. If I was going to have one or the other, that was one thing I always did, was the copper IUD. So you could take a break if you wanted to. Yes, I will be sending a recording out with this and also with the coupon code. I've been intermittent fasting for a while, on and off, and it's called Delay in My Period. Interesting. Reducing stress would be one. I wouldn't think that intermittent fasting would cause your period to go on and off unless you're in a real calorie deficit. Like a real calorie deficit. That's usually when your body's not ovulating. But I would, let me think here. Oh, your period's very okay. So stress would definitely be one thing, right? Really reducing the stress, really supporting liver. Reclaim might be an idea. We have a lot of people who don't have a regular cycle, and after they message me after being on Reclaim for like a month, they're like, oh my God, what a godsend. My daughter, who's 15, she takes Reclaim, but she's 15 years old. So she takes Reclaim probably 1 week before her period and during her period, and then she stops. And she takes it because she gets a little bit of acne or because she gets kind of a little bit crampy sometimes. I can't control what my 15-year-old eats for the most part. So she's not eating, broccoli and all these wonderful foods that I wish she'd be eating all the time, even if I make the dinner. So she usually uses it during that time. So yeah, reduce stress and look at your supplements as well. But intermittent fasting can also cause, depending on where you are, intermittent fasting a lot of the time is advised for women in menopause, kind of the later half. It's really good for you then, but it can cause a little bit of stress on your body. So that's something you just want to kind of be a little cautious of. Because I do know I do flexible fasting. So I eat when I'm hungry, and that's my way of kind of really tuning in. So I don't necessarily go by the clock, but if it's like 12, I'm like, okay, now I'm hungry. Or if it's like 10:30 and I'm really hungry, that means my ghrelin has kicked in. So that hormone that talks to you, ghrelin, and that actually kicks in growth hormone too. So that's another reason why it's really great for that, to get yourself a little bit hungry, because it actually kicks in growth hormone as well. And that was a lot of information about stuff you didn't ask for, but I told you anyways. Any other questions? No problem. And I will be sending the recording out. Blood sugar 10 is the code on the website for 10% off. And I will send that also in the letter too. I'm going to stop recording now though.